Welcome to this week's episode of the Prep Athletics Podcast. I'm proud to have joining us Coach Connor Merrill from Deerfield. Now, Connor did a post-grad year himself at Vermont Academy and had a wonderful experience there. Played some big-time basketball and then went to Skidmore, where he was a very good player, had the best teams in Skidmore history when he was there. After that, he coached at Vermont Academy, so he got to see the other side of that, and then coached at Middlebury and Springfield College. And we had a great conversation today learning more about his background, why he chose prep school, how he chose a prep school. He talked about how he places kids in college, the benefits of, Class A and all the talent that's there now, which is the class that Deerfield plays in. And he also played at Vermont Academy, and they were AA, and coached there when they were AAA. So he's seen the whole gamut of the class system. So he speaks well on that, talks about, what we ask every coach is, what does it take for a guard to play at the D1 level? And then he shares some fun insights on the movie The Holdovers being filmed there at Deerfield before he got there, but they did get to screen it early at Deerfield, and he talks about that as well. If you like this podcast, be sure to subscribe on all the podcasting platforms. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube as we put bonus footage up there. And as always, prepathletics.com. Go there to sign up for the newsletter, where every month we'll update you on the latest in the prep school world. And now, enjoy our conversation with Coach Connor Merrill on the Prep Athletics Podcast. Welcome to the Prep Athletics Podcast. This is Corey Heights.
Some battles. I'm not sure if they got us. If they did, maybe.
So you will get better as a player during that year.
So it was kind of exciting. Like, oh yeah, somebody wants me.
Connor, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me on, Corey. Excited to be here.
Yeah, good to have you. And in high school, you chose to go to Vermont Academy for a prep school experience. And I want to know, when did you find out about prep schools, and what led you to choosing Vermont Academy?
Yeah, so I didn't find out for a while. I had no idea what prep school was until the summer going into my senior year. Just kind of, actually my principal at my public school at the time had coached some kind of private school football and kind of knew of the world a little bit. So he connected with my high school basketball coach, and we all kind of agreed, you know what, this could make some sense for me. So then the current coach at Vermont Academy at the time used to be a public high school coach in Vermont. So he knew my current high school coach. So they kind of connected the dots for me, went down there, did the whole interview process, tour, that whole process. And then just the more and more we visited it, the more and more it made sense. And actually, when I committed to him, probably about a month or two later, he actually got asked to leave. So I was kind of committed to a school that didn't have a coach at the time. And end of May, in comes Jesse Bopp, calling me up on a random Friday saying, "Hey, man, I'm your new prep school coach. Let's get to work." And I said, "All right, let's go. Sounds good." That was kind of the whole process of how I got the dot connected to Vermont Academy.
Interesting. So you just had one guy telling you this could be a good fit for you. You didn't look at other options, didn't know AA. Did you know about AA, AAA, the talent and all this?
No idea. I looked at one other school. I looked at Kimball Union as well.
Okay.
Because I knew of another Vermonter who was actually there my senior year for a post-grad year. But other than that, I had no idea what this world was like. No clue.
Tell me about your experience at VA.
Yeah, it was, it's funny. I actually, I get to talk about this quite a bit when I'm talking to prospective families here who are looking at a post-grad year, because I've seen both sides of it. It was one of the best decisions I ever made. That being said, it was also one of the hardest years I've ever gone through. Just, again, it sounds cliche, it sounds generic, but it's true. You are constantly outside your comfort zone. You're living a couple hours away from home, in a pretty isolated rural area. Your schedule is very structured. It's very set. Playing for Jesse Bopp, he's pretty animated. So he was a phenomenal coach, great guy. I'd never been exposed to that level of intensity and competition. So it was hard. It was really, really hard. And I was probably miserable for at least half the year. It was just, I was like a fish out of water. I was just so out of my comfort zone. But probably by like January or so, I don't know what it was, just something clicked.
Yeah.
He was on me. He was on my case a lot. For all the right reasons. But I think just something clicked where finally what he was saying was resonating with, finally started to resonate with me. And I just, I took off. I just, my confidence skyrocketed on the court, in the weight room, just in the community, in the classroom. And I was just, I was a different person in the second half of the year than I was in the first half of the year. And I always tell people, if it weren't for that discomfort and it weren't for, just how hard it was going through that place on a daily basis, there's no way in heck I would have, been able to go on the path I went on. So I'm forever in debt to that place. I'm forever in debt to Jesse. It was such a positive experience for me.
Yeah, and it's funny because one of the players I coached in Kentucky chose to go to Vermont Academy and play for Jesse, and then Jesse left, took a job at the college ranks, and then that player had to play for the next coach, Cody Hatt.
Yeah.
So that's challenging. And South Kent this year, we have kids that have signed up to go to South Kent, and then their coach, Raphael Chilius, announced the first day of school that he took a job with the Memphis Grizzlies. So you got to be ready for flexibility and know it's
totally.
Part of life, right? So it's prepping you for life as well.
I will say though that South Kent got a winner in Craig Carter. Actually, my junior year of college at Skidmore, he was our volunteer assistant, and he was unbelievable. So
great.
They got themselves a heck of a person and a coach.
Absolutely. And then from Vermont Academy, you chose to play at Skidmore. Walk me through what colleges you were looking at, what was important to you, and why you ultimately chose that school.
Yeah. So, you said obviously you ended up choosing Skidmore. St. Lawrence was recruiting me pretty hard. Springfield College was recruiting me pretty hard. Connecticut College and the NEPSAC was recruiting me pretty hard. It kind of came down to those four. Had a little bit of like Division II sniffs early on, like St. Mike's came to watch me play. I visited Southern New Hampshire like the summer going into my post-grad year, but none of that kind of formulated. So it kind of came down to those four. And I think just, so my AAU coach was a Skidmore alum. And at the time Skidmore just hired Joe Burke. He was new. So my AAU coach kind of pushed me towards him. And just, we kind of developed a relationship, stayed in touch throughout the year. I went there to visit, see them play, all that stuff. And I'd actually been there previous, prior to my time, before I decided on a post-grad route. The previous coach, Luke Flakertzy, who's now the head coach at the University of Rochester, had recruited me a little bit. So I was familiar with the campus, familiar with the area, and wanted to explore it again. And so just ended up coming down in the spring, and fortunately got a really good financial aid package there. It just felt like the right fit for me. What I was looking for is, I really wanted to go to a school that was really strong academically. I had a relationship with the head coach. I had an opportunity to win. They had just won the Liberty League title for the first time in school history the year before I got there. And then I wanted to play. I was a competitive kid. I didn't want to go somewhere where I was going to ride the pine for a year or two. Like I wanted to go somewhere where hopefully I could get on the court and impact winning, pretty early on. And luckily Skidmore checked off all those boxes. So that's kind of how I got there.
Now here's something I want to touch on. You said your AAU coach connected you with Skidmore and their coach versus Jesse. So now in your role at Deerfield, and we're going to get into Deerfield and about that more, but I want to, sidebar here, like how much placement do you do for your final year guys versus AAU versus parent outreach versus maybe a family that hires a consultant to help them with the college basketball placement? Like what's your philosophy on like placement and who else gets involved?
Yeah. One, I'm heavily involved with that. It's honestly a big reason why I kind of wanted to get to this level. This is a process I enjoy. But, I always tell kids, just keep your circle relatively small and listen to the people, who you trust and know. They're going to give you honest, genuine feedback and honest and genuine guidance. So, if that's an AAU coach, great. If it's not, no worries. If it's a parent, if it's a friend, I haven't had any families hire kind of outside consultants to help them through the college process. That's something I really take on. And, I tell families that in the recruiting process, that, hey, this is part of the deal. This is what I do. But, that being said, it's a two-way street. I'm not going to make phone calls for you, and I'm not going to advocate for you if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. If you're not in the gym every day, if you're not in the weight room every day, if you're not, doing everything in your power to be as good of a student and community member here at Deerfield as you can be. But if you do those things and, you give me a list of schools you want me to contact, and, I'll run through a wall for you. I will. But I think my background, having coached at the college level and, been around various levels of basketball, I have a pretty good sense of where I think I can place a kid. And then my network, I kind of just really rely on that and try to cast a wide net and push kids to those coaches. And luckily, I've been able to go 7 for 7 so far in my time here. And hopefully that keeps going up.
Perfect. All right. Thanks for that side note. Let's get back to Skidmore and your experience there. You were a good player there, both there and both nationally, and your team was really good too. Tell me about your experience basketball-wise at Skidmore.
Yeah, it was great. Again, it was just, talking about when you're in the process trying to figure out, what's important to you. It ended up working out. It's part of a winning program. We went to 2 NCAA tournaments. We won the Liberty League championship twice. Once my freshman year, once my senior year. We finished in at least the conference semifinals all 4 years. So we were a really good team, not only in the league, but by the time my senior year came around, we were, receiving votes to be in the top 25, on d3hoops.com. And, my senior year team, we actually just recently got inducted into the Skidmore Athletics Hall of Fame, earlier this month for what we did that year. We were the first team, to ever, win over 20 games in a season. We were the first team to win a Liberty League regular season championship, and we were the first team to ever win a game in the NCAA tournament in school history. So it was awesome. It was such a good experience, and we were a point away or a possession away from going to the Sweet 16. We ended up losing a really close 3-point game on the road to Johns Hopkins in their gym, and again, it was just we were so close to making it to the next round. But again, it was just such a good experience. I was able to have some individual success. We had a lot of collective success, and it was an incredible experience.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. You then went from graduating to be an assistant coach at the college levels at Springfield and at Middlebury. Tell us what you learned from being at that level that you now use at your coaching job.
Yeah, so actually my first gig was to be an assistant at Vermont Academy. So I went back there and worked there. I worked for Alex Pope for a year. To have my introduction to coaching, be able to coach guys like Bruce Brown and Tyreek Jones and Marcus Santos Silva and, Patrick Fisher, all these guys, it was incredible. So, I was really lucky for that to be my introduction to the profession. Alex had also been a graduate assistant at Springfield back in the day. So he had a connection to Coach Brock, kind of pushed me to Coach Brock, and that timing ended up working out pretty well. And then I also had known Jeff Brown from my time as a player. So, when my 2 years had finished at Springfield, luckily, Jeff offered me a full-time job. But yeah, just working for those guys. Jeff Brown and Charlie Brockert, 2 of the best coaches to really ever coach. And it's, regardless of level. Coach Brock has been super involved in the NABC, the rules committee. He's done so much, not just for Springfield College, but for the game of basketball itself. And then Jeff Brown's resume speaks for itself. He's won probably close to 80% of his games in the last 15 years. Been to 11 or 12 NCAA tournaments, been to a Final Four, coached professionals, coached overseas guys, All-Americans. You also couldn't ask for 2 polar opposite personalities, which was such a good experience for me. And just kind of, led me to show, I was like, hey, there's no one right way to do it. You coach to your personality, and those guys did, and it worked uniquely in their own ways. So just taking bits and pieces of that, just the amount of time and preparation that Coach Brock put into every single practice plan and every single scouting report and every single game plan, it was eye-opening. Just, again, the attention to detail and how important that was. And then Coach Brown, just the amount of autonomy and how he empowered his players. There's a reason why he's won the amount of games he's won, is because those guys want to run through a wall for him, because he genuinely cares about them and empowers them. Taking bits and pieces from each of those guys and trying to kind of mold it into my own style. That's the ultimate goal. And if I can be a fraction of, as successful as those guys have been in their careers, I think, I've done a pretty good job.
Nice. And then from there, you've now been at Deerfield for a couple of years. Give us your pitch on Deerfield. Tell us about your school. Tell us about your basketball program.
Yeah. It's, obviously I've been listening to, some of the other podcasts you've been on, and, it's going to sound pretty similar to, some of these other schools, but it's, this place is the real deal. I mean, it's one of the 5 best academic boarding schools in the country. And, we compete in NEPSAC Class A, which is incredibly competitive. I mean, just the amount of resources we have, we're fortunate to have at this place, beautiful location, such a strong name brand academically. When I was in the process trying to get the job, I just kept telling people, I'm like, this place is a sleeping giant in the basketball world. It really is. It has everything in place you need in order to give yourself a chance to be competitive. Just got to get hopefully get the right guy in there. And, luckily they hired me. And, with our program, what I'm always trying to sell kids on is, again, one, it's the academic piece. You're not going to get a better education anywhere else than you're going to get here at Deerfield. The community aspect too here is as good as it gets. I'd say about 90% of our kids all live directly on campus. So you're just going to meet kids. I mean, we have kids from 40 different states, over 50 different countries. So it really is a worldly institution, and you're going to get to meet such a diverse group of kids and just, use that as a network as you're moving forward. And then the basketball piece for me, it's just, my biggest sell is just, be a part of something at a place where it's never been done before. Building a championship level program and building a championship level culture. It doesn't happen overnight, but I mean, we've made incredible strides in my 2 years here. And, we've beaten teams in these 2 years that historically, we've not been successful against. And we've come up really close against teams that, we haven't been successful, against in the past. And just try to sell kids, we are knocking on the door. We just need a few more guys to go along with us. So it's, again, it checks off so many boxes, and this place has a chance to really transform kids' lives. And, I want to bring as many kids that want to be a part of this, as possible on board.
Right. And what kind of kids should be looking at Deerfield for your program?
Yeah, again, obviously, you got to be a really strong student. We say no to 87 or 88 out of every 100 kids that apply here. So, that's about a 12 to 13% acceptance rates. You obviously have to be an incredibly strong student. But, I always look for kids that are self-starters. I don't want kids that have to be told what to do, that have to be told, hey, go to class, go to study hall. Hey, go to the weight room, go to the gym. Like, kids who are self-starters really are what I'm looking for a lot. And then obviously, again, when it comes to talent, you got to be able to pass, dribble, and shoot. I know that sounds generic, but if you can't do those things, it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard. And this league is just so competitive. It's just full of scholarship level talent, high major, mid major, low major, Division II, high level Division III basketball. Good basketball is good basketball. And this league is chock full of it. So kids who love the game, kids who love to compete, kids who want to win, and kids who want to, use the sport to get them somewhere. I think those are kids I really, really look for in the recruiting process.
And when you're looking at them in your recruiting process, you're trying to figure out how much bandwidth it's going to take you, Connor, to place them at the next level.
That certainly plays a role. It definitely plays a role. For me, it's kind of finding that balance, right? Who's going to help us win, and who can I help get to where they're trying to go? Because again, it's an investment. It's a financial investment. You're whether you're a post-grad or a repeat junior or a repeat sophomore, you're putting some level of investment into this place. So I want to make sure that we can position you as best as possible to get out of it what you're hoping for. So yeah, that certainly plays a role in the recruiting process.
All right. So you played at AAA Vermont Academy. You coached at AAA Vermont Academy. Actually, Vermont might have been AA when you were there. And now you're at single A. And you just mentioned now single A is very competitive, which I absolutely know it is. But what do you say to families that are, trying to figure out the differences between AAA, AA, single A, BC? Like, what's your response to that?
Yeah. I mean, I say it's, again, like I just said, good basketball is good basketball. And it is at every single school in the NEPSAC. I'd say the AAA level, to an extent, more so puts basketball on its own pedestal. And again, that works for those schools. That works for kids that are looking for that. AA is a little bit more, like that as well. And that's not to discredit single A. Again, it is incredibly competitive. The vast majority of single A schools are all also some of the best academic boarding schools in the country. It really is it's the blend of both. and it's a place you can do both at a really high level. So again, it's, if you're looking for one of the best educations you can possibly get while at the same time playing in an incredible academic, in an incredible basketball league, like this level is for you. If you're looking just to play hoops and just kind of have that be your primary focus, maybe you want to look at that AA, AAA level.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I always tell people, I've said this 1,000 times, like, go to the place where it's the best fit for you coaching wise, especially if you're a post-grad for that 9 months. And I don't care what the letter is, by the name. If you want to go to a AAA school, but it's not the best fit, none of that rankings or status matters. So yeah, you say that too in your pitches.
Yeah. And again, it's like, there is value. Again, I mean, the fall open gym stuff is invaluable. It is one of the premier selling points that all of us NEPSAC coaches make to families when we're trying to get you to come to Deerfield or come to whatever school. But at the same time, like, you got to get game minutes wherever you go. You don't want to just go somewhere and play in front of all these high major coaches because they're all there watching kids who are twice as good as you. But then come season time, you're riding the pine. It's like, again, that it's important to play in front of coaches, but like, you got a 25, 30 game schedule. Like, you want to give yourself an opportunity to be on the floor as much as humanly possible. So like you said, it's about fit over level.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you see as the future of prep school basketball? Like, do you see it expanding over the next 5 years? NIL's taking place. You've got academies popping up, more foreign kids coming over, JUCO kids. The game's gotten older. Like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really don't see it ever going away. I do think watered down is the wrong term for it, but like you said, there's more out there now. There are these basketball academies there that are, again, it's very singular focused. So to an extent, that can take away from the NEPSAC sometimes. Kids that historically may have gone to a Tilton or a Brewster, again, like back in my day, when Tilton had that loaded team that they had, St. Andrews had, like Michael Carter Williams and all those guys, maybe that level of player isn't consistently coming to the NEPSAC because there are these, NIL opportunities where, maybe it's a better fit for them. So that's where I would say, what I see as the biggest change. But, with Class A, Class A is only getting better. I think I was listening to Max Gordon speak recently on this, and he was just saying, all these new coaches keep getting hired, and a lot of them have such impressive resumes, just coming from college levels, Division I, Division II, Division III. So it's like they're bringing that resume and that experience to our league, and it's only making the rest of the league better. So yeah, it's definitely not going anywhere, and I'd say it's only going to continue to be as strong as it's always been, and if not get stronger.
Yeah, talk to me about this question that a lot of younger families have: reclassing versus not. Right. So what are your thoughts on that? It's like a 9th or 10th graders talking to you.
Yeah. And again, I've been in a unique opportunity where I did a post-grad year, so I can again kind of speak to both sides of it. And I always tell families, my biggest regret about my post-grad year at Vermont Academy was that I only did 1 year. Again, I just had no idea what prep school was. But knowing what I know now and having seen the transformational growth I saw as a person, as a player, as a student, I absolutely would have pursued multiple years instead of just one if I could have. So I firmly believe that the more time you can spend in this type of environment, the better. But at the same time, like, you got to go when you're ready, and you don't want to go too early. I think, again, it's such an adjustment. Deerfield's such a rigorous academic school. A lot's going to be asked of you on the court, in the classroom, in the community. But you want to make sure you're ready for that discomfort and for that growth. Again, I think, and again, the other piece I speak to with families too is, having been a college coach for 6 years, we prioritized kids who had gone through some type of prep school experience, whether they reclassed early or they did a post-grad year. And I remember taking one of my post-grads on a college visit last year, and we were talking to the head coach there, and he said, it's rare that we go after kids who haven't reclassed at some point. So I just think that's the reality of the situation in today's day and age. And I think if you can be a 19-year-old freshman in college, or sometimes even a 20-year-old freshman versus an 18-year-old freshman, and having already, been on a boarding school campus where it's much more like a college experience and you're playing with and against the level of competition that's here, you're only going to be that much more ready to go, whenever you hit the ground running, wherever you land next. So again, my firm belief is that the more time a kid can spend on a prep school campus, it's only going to serve him better, in the long run.
Yes, absolutely. Now, if a player doesn't reclass at Deerfield and they graduate and want to do a post-grad year, can they stay at Deerfield, do a post-grad year there, or do they have to go to a different school?
They could. I'd say it's very rare.
Yeah.
I would say it's very, very rare. I personally haven't heard of any instances, at least, obviously not in my time or in the immediate future since that's happened. Could it have happened at some point? Yeah, maybe. For example, we just had a lacrosse kid graduate here last year. He came in as a new junior, but he didn't repeat his junior year. I think he's committed to go play lacrosse at Denver next year, but he had to be a class of 2025. So now he's doing a post-grad year at Salisbury in Connecticut. So I would say it's much more common for kids to leave here and go somewhere else.
Yeah, because that's the thing, like with families I talk to, let's say I'm dealing with a 10th grader right now, and they're like, do we reclass and do, 10th, 11th, 12th, or we just do 11th, 12th, and post-grad?
Mm-hmm.
And, you and I both know everyone, like you just said, every college coach wants an older product out there. But, some families are gun shy in that and be like, well, what if I just do 4 years and the school I like is waiting for me? If I had a reclass, I might have missed out on that, which, and, you see some top players in high school, like will graduate early to join Duke or someone like that. There's a lot going on with that process, but yeah, it's tricky. It's every situation is different. Every school does it different too.
Yeah. And again, I think, like you said, so many kids are doing 5 years, 5 years of high school anyway.
Yeah.
If you have an opportunity to come to Deerfield as a repeat sophomore, why wouldn't you take that as opposed to just coming right in? And again, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter where you come from, whether you're coming from another boarding school experience, you're coming from a public school, maybe you went to a junior boarding school, Deerfield and just prep school in general. It's going to be an adjustment. It's going to be an adjustment. The level of rigor academically is going to increase. The level of competition on the basketball court is going to be different. And again, just the more time you have to adjust to that, the better.
Yeah, love it. What does it take to play guard at the D1 level? I ask every coach that because everyone's got a different opinion. And I want all the guards out there that have that dream that just hear as much as they can.
Yeah. Maybe play the lottery to an extent. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, there's to an extent, there's so much luck that goes into it. It's really, if you're not 6 feet or over, it's going to be really, really difficult. I mean, there's so few instances where sub 6 foot guards or even 6 foot guards have had success, substantial success at that level. Like Isaiah Thomas's don't grow on trees. The guard that Kansas State had a couple of years ago in the tournament, guys like that don't grow on trees. Again, I think for me, it's just, you're the floor general, you're the quarterback, you're the CEO, you're the one running the show out there, and your pulse on the game has to be so immense. Like you have to orchestrate everything else out there. You have to minimize mistakes. You got to guard. You got to be able to make shots. You got to make everyone else's job around you better. You got to be a coach on the floor. And I think sometimes you could do all those things and sometimes it still might not work out. Again, like I said, just kind of the luck sometimes, some guys have God-given ability and God-given genes where maybe they're 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", and that puts them in another level, for coaches to see. Not everyone has those genes. So there certainly is a level of just genetics and God-given ability that goes into it. But again, like I said, I think you got to impact winning in as many ways as possible, and you got to make everyone else's job around you easier.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. We're going to do some quick hitters now, all right? Who's the best player you've ever played against?
George Niang.
Was that when you were at Vermont Academy?
When I was at Vermont, he was on that loaded Tilton team that had like Nerlens Noel and Wayne Selden and Good Luck Okinobo. And I think he gave us close to 40 that game. And he was unstoppable. And, there's a reason why he's stayed in the league for as long as he stayed. He just figures out how to win and figures out a way to, impact winning.
How about the best player you've coached against?
Probably the guard that Ben Farmer at Wilson has right now, Preston Edmead. 6-foot guard committed to Hofstra next year. Just lightning quick, super shifty, creates so much separation on a step back jumper when he's going to the rim. Facilitates, just tough, hard-nosed kid. Again, like talking about his gravity and his pulse and impact he has on the game. He checks off those boxes. So, yeah, we did not find a way to slow him down last year too well. So hopefully we can find out a way to slow him down this year. But yeah, he is terrific, and Hofstra had found themselves a heck of a player for the next 4 years.
That's great. What about your favorite movie of all time?
Ooh, favorite movie? Probably bring up my nerdy side. I love Lord of the Rings. All three of them. I mean, I could binge watch those things all the time. So yeah, definitely a Lord of the Rings fan.
Speaking of movies, tell us about the movie that was filmed at your school a couple years ago.
Yeah, the Holdovers. Yeah, Paul Giamatti. He's kind of the headliner. It was filmed before I got here, and the second lead act was a Deerfield alum. He graduated in 2022. A kid named Dominic Sessa. So again, he graduated before I got here. But, yeah, it was just won a bunch of awards. We actually got a pre-screening of it here on campus before it was released to the theaters, like 2 weeks before. We had a pre-screening. It was awesome. But yeah, no, it's definitely gotten us some more PR, and it was filmed right here on campus. I think they did it during our long holiday break. Maybe a little bit during the March break too. But yeah, that's pretty cool to watch the movie and recognize, hey, that's the building where my office is in, or hey, like that's so and so dark. It's pretty cool.
Well, that's awesome. And then what are your hobbies when you're not doing the basketball thing?
Spending time with my dog. I got a 2.5-year-old golden retriever that takes up a lot of time, but he's, I wouldn't trade it for the world. Currently, right now, wedding planning, getting married next August. That's thank you. Yeah, so that's taking up some time too. But just getting outdoors. Deerfield's a beautiful area. You can get outside, go for a lot of hikes, find different swimming holes, stuff like that. Just kind of spending time outside, spending time with fiance, spending time with the dog, and it's a great place to be.
Cool. Is there anything we didn't talk about you want to touch on before we get off of here?
No, I think I think you kind of checked off all those boxes, and I think again, it's just it's great what you're doing for kids and families, and bringing more and more notoriety to prep school basketball, and to New England. To New England prep schools. Like, I wish we had someone like you back when I was, going through this process 12, 15 years ago.
I could have used one of me too before I picked prep school as well.
So, no, I'd say just, the biggest thing is, really appreciate everything you do for our brand of basketball, and everything that, the opportunities that that you help provide kids and their families.
Thanks, man. I appreciate those kind words, Connor.
For sure.
Where can people find you if they want to reach out, they're interested in following you on the socials or inquiring about Deerfield? We'll put all that in the show notes, but go ahead and share it now.
Sure. Yeah. So Twitter handle, my personal one is at Connor Merrill 33. We also have our Twitter handle at Deerfield Hoops. That's I think our Instagram is Deerfield Basketball. Those are our three kind of social handles, and try to do as good of a job as I'm certainly no social media whiz, but try to do as good of a job as I can. Keep providing content, keeping up to dates, responding to recruits that reach out, and just trying to showcase, what Deerfield is about and what our program is trying to become.
Awesome. I love it. Well, Connor, thanks for joining us today on the Prep Athletics Podcast. If you folks enjoyed this, be sure to subscribe and tune in to all the episodes, and we'll keep bringing you the good stuff with interviews with coaches and more insights into the prep school basketball world. So, Connor, thanks again for coming on.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Corey. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much. See you guys next week. Take care.